In my past life, my husband Mike and his beloved Linda got kidnapped at the same time. And he didn't hesitate to drain our savings to save Linda, leaving me to die on the spot. Now, they're the ones kidnapped, and it's finally my turn to choose. From school uniforms to wedding dresses. Married to Mike for 10 years, he catered to my every whim. Even if I wanted the stars, he'd get them for me. Everyone envied me for marrying such a great guy. But everything changed that day, when both Linda and I got kidnapped. The kidnapper demanded a ransom of $1 million, but only for one person. Mike didn't hesitate to use all our savings to save Linda, leaving me to die. As I was fading away, I saw Linda squatting in front of me, her eyes full of disdain. She said, "Luna, you stole him for 10 years. It's time to give Mike back to me." Stole? Since when did loving my own husband become stealing? I wanted to smack our marriage certificate in her face and show who the real thief was. But I was in too much pain to say anything. I could only helplessly reach out, trying to grab Mike's clothes. "Mike, tell her. You are my husband, she is the thief." But my husband of 10 years didn't even spare me a glance. His world was all about Linda. Holding her hand, lovingly at her waist, he softly explained. "Linda, I've always loved you. She never stole me." I couldn't believe such unfamiliar, heartless words came from my Mike. He's the one who first started things. From confessing to proposing, "Mike, you started it all. How am I suddenly the one who stole? Luna, would you be my girlfriend?" When I opened my eyes again, 18-year-old Mike stood there, uniform-clad, offering flowers, confessing in front of the whole class. I pinched my thigh hard, feeling a sharp pain. In that moment, I realized I was reborn. Classmates were egging me on, shouting "say yes," putting pressure on me. In my past life, I was too shy to refuse Mike in public, so I agreed. But now, even if someone put a gun to my head, I wouldn't jump into the fire again for Mike. After the despair and death of my previous life, just seeing Mike made me furious. "Get lost, don't disturb my studying." I shoved him away, heading back to my seat, but he grabbed me before I could take 2 steps. He held my wrist, seemingly wanting to say something. I couldn't wait to shake him off and snapped at him with all my misplaced anger. "Mike, what makes you think you're good enough for me?" Mike is tall and can fight, so many fear him at school. Few dare to talk to him like this, but I'm an exception. Before dating Mike, my grades were top-notch, one of the brightest in the school. Teachers valued me, offering protection and special treatment. Unfortunately, after dating Mike, he dragged me to skip classes, go to internet cafes, and sing, saying as his girlfriend, I had to support him. This led to my grades plummeting. I didn't even take the college entrance exam, let alone get into my dream school. I still remember, the night before the college entrance exam, Mike's trouble with punks got me hospitalized. I thought about breaking up with Mike back then. But my parents were mad at me, never visiting the hospital, so Mike took care of me tirelessly for 2 weeks. In the end, as I was about to be discharged, he fainted from exhaustion. At 18, I was deeply moved, naively believing that if he loved me, I could give up everything for him. But then, leaving school and joining society, facing countless rejections due to low education, I ended up doing the hardest labor. That's when it hit me that I gave up not just one college entrance exam for Mike, but my whole life. Now, given a second chance, just looking at my math book fills me with warmth. This time, no one can stop me from studying. Mike isn't Mike, he's just an obstacle in my path. I focused on the blackboard, but he suddenly turned around to talk. "Luna, can you stop staring at me? Why didn't I notice how conceited he was before?" I rolled my eyes in frustration. "What's wrong with you? You're tall and blocking the board, and you're acting like I'm the problem." "You." Mike seemed mad, but kept his cool. "Don't think I confessed because I like you. If it wasn't for..." He glanced at Linda, then stopped mid-sentence. I got it. He came to me only after failing with Linda. What's his deal? Can't catch pretty Linda, so aim for the smart one, me? I laughed out loud in anger. I raised my hand and shouted, "Teacher, Mike is disturbing my studying." The teacher threw a piece of chalk, hitting Mike's face. "Out, stand outside." I wasn't trying to settle scores. I just couldn't let him disrupt my learning any longer. With the obstacle out of the way, I immersed myself in the joy of the lesson. After class, I unexpectedly saw Linda comforting the punished Mike. If they're so fond of each other, why drag me into this mess? Just because I was thin-skinned and agreed to Mike's confession? I couldn't figure it out. Until the next day, a transfer student named Jack arrived. Then I remembered, Mike didn't fail with his goddess because of me, Jack was the reason. Rumor had it that Linda came from a single-parent home and her dad pressured her to attract wealthy students to earn money. It just so happened that Jack was loaded. So, after Jack transferred, Linda ignored Mike. Then, 3 years later, on our wedding day, Linda burst into the ceremony looking worn out. She said her rich husband was abusive, and she escaped, hoping we old classmates would help her out. Mike was immediately off that day, suggesting Linda stay at our place. I had just finished setting up my new house but hadn't spent a single day there myself before letting a stranger stay. I didn't like the idea. But seeing Linda, pregnant and on her knees, crying her heart out, I couldn't bring myself to say no. At that time, Mike promised me, "Linda will only stay a couple of days, then she'll be gone. We won't stay in touch after that." A few days later, he kept his word and sent Linda away, even offering to let me check his phone. I believed him and didn't think much of it. But in hindsight, that's probably when Mike and Linda rekindled their old flame. I was holding my homework, mulling over past foolishness, when I heard Linda's voice. "Mike, believe me, I was forced. I was made to be with him," she was telling Mike about Jack. I couldn't help but chuckle. That's when they both noticed me. Linda's face turned stern as she asked, "What's so funny?" Hugging my homework, I shrugged, "Nothing. Just wondering, did he hold a knife to your throat to make you kiss him?" Linda's face flushed red, unable to come up with a comeback. I shrugged and was about to leave when Mike blocked my way. "Luna, can we talk privately?" I wondered why Mike wanted to talk to me so badly. Of course, it was about Linda. More importantly, Mike had also come back to life. Unlike me, who came back to fix past regrets, Mike returned to make things right with Linda. He led me to a secluded spot, and the first thing he asked was, "Luna, did you also come back to life?" I nodded, "Yes, what's up?" Then Mike started going off, "I wronged you in our past life. Take it out on me, but leave Linda alone. She did nothing wrong." I thought I had moved on, but hearing him say that made me realize I hadn't. I couldn't let go. How did I ever fall for such an idiot in my past life? "Mike, what made you think I was bothering her?" "I just want to focus on my studies. I'm thankful if you two don't disturb me." Mike seemed to calm down a bit with my words and said, with fake sincerity, "Thanks, Luna. You're a good person. If you face any trouble, come to me. I'll help you out." "No need." I was done with the conversation. I shoved past him and rushed into the girls' bathroom. If I didn't hurry, I'd burst into tears. After that day, I didn't speak to Mike again, and after high school graduation, we completely lost touch. Still, I kept getting texts from an unknown number. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, each saying, "Are you okay?" I didn't know who was sending them, but since Mike was my only ex, I suspected it was him. That was until the day I went to pick up my acceptance letter and received a call from that number. It was the first call I'd gotten from them. A voice on the line, not Mike's, said, "Is this Luna?" "Yes, it's me. Let me introduce myself, I'm a kidnapper. I've kidnapped Mr. Mike and Ms. Linda." The word kidnapper immediately brought back memories of my previous life's tragic end. My husband pushed me into the path of kidnappers' knives to protect Linda. The familiar, sinister choice echoed through the phone, $1 million, only one person can be saved. Who will it be? I said I didn't have $1 million, and the kidnapper laughed, suggesting I watch the drama unfold at the abandoned factory in the west of town. That's where I died last time, killed by Mike's hand. But here he was now, alongside his beloved, tied up and desperately begging me for help, like pitiful dogs. Luna, you're finally here. Hurry, give him the money so he can let us go. Mike's nerve amazed me. I hated him, there was no way I'd save him. Mike, I once begged you like this too. Remember what you said? You said you'd put up with me for a decade and told me to hurry up and die, claiming my life was owed to you. What makes you think I'd save you now? I tried to stay calm, but my voice still trembled with restraint. The kidnapper in the black hoodie laughed wickedly at my words. He shrugged at the pitiful couple hanging from the rafters. Seems like the lady you chose doesn't want to save you, Mr. Mike. No, Luna, I love you. Believe me, Mike panicked, desperately explaining, I wronged you before, but can't you help me just this once for the sake of 10 years we had together? 10 years of what, exactly? I nearly laughed in disgust. But before I could respond, Linda burst out in rage at Mike. Mike, what do you mean? You sweet-talk me into bed, and now your little girlfriend shows up, and it's me who needs to die? Mike, caught off guard, stammered. After a pause, he finally muttered, Linda, I meant for her to help with both our ransoms. Linda was having none of it. Mike, you're just trying to fool me. Finally, the show began. I shared a knowing glance with the kidnapper, who grinned discreetly. I raised the bag in my hand, expressionless, and said, I only have $1 million, enough for one. You two figure it out. Linda, hearing this, became more agitated. She ignored Mike and directed her attention to me, trying to win me over. Luna, you like Mike, right? Save me, and I'll give him up to you. I couldn't help but laugh. Linda, you really don't get it, do you? If I liked Mike, would you have even been in the picture? Besides, who told you I wanted to pick up trash? Trash? Luna, you're calling me trash? Mike looked at me, shocked. I paid him no attention. I just looked at Linda and said, so, Miss Linda, how about I give you another chance to convince me? Linda, ever the opportunist, immediately dropped Mike like a hot potato and shouted, Luna, it's all Mike's fault for forcing me to be with him. If you want to blame anyone, blame him. There's no bad blood between us. Her hair was a mess, her voice hoarse, and she looked like a wild woman devoid of any manners or teaching. Mike probably had never seen his goddess acting like this before, and every word she said hit him hard. His face turned white with anger. Linda, what nonsense are you talking about? Weren't you the one begging for money, asking for my help, and then you seduced me? Bullshit. It was you who forced me. If you didn't want it, how could I, a weak girl, have forced you? The two squabbled like fishwives on the street. I remembered in my previous life how they were all lovey-dovey in front of me before I died, and seeing this now filled me with a satisfaction I'd never known. At this point, the kidnapper walked over to me, smiling slyly, and asked, Miss Luna, did you bring what I asked for? Of course. I handed him the black bag. My actions caught the attention of Mike and Linda, and they immediately stopped fighting. It was as if a switch flipped in Mike's head. He suddenly lost all affection for his goddess. Luna, I'm sorry. I was wrong before. I didn't see her true colors. Don't worry, from now on, I'll be devoted to you. Please, give me one more chance, won't you? I never thought I'd see him so pathetic one day. Not gonna lie, it's kind of entertaining. I smiled at Mike. Really? Well, that's nice, but I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Mike's eyes widened. Why not? Didn't you bring the $1 million? As long as you save me, we can have a future. I lightly pulled the zipper on the black bag. Who told you I brought $1 million? The kidnapper played along, pulling out a bag of seeds, munching away. Miss Luna brought peanuts and popcorn. I shrugged. What's a show without snacks? The kidnapper knocked them both out cold. I pulled off his mask. Seeing the familiar face underneath, I sighed in relief. It really is you, little James. The boy, just 16, carefully corrected me. Sis, I go by James. Little James, well, James, is a kid my dad sponsored. In my last life, right after high school, I ran off with Mike. Furious, my dad adopted a boy from the orphanage and named him James. Probably fueled by spite, he was determined to groom James into a PhD, hoping he'd bring pride to our family. James lived up to expectations, never disappointing my dad as he excelled in everything he did. While I struggled to survive, James's casual project earnings equaled 3 years of my salary. I was too ashamed to face my dad, so I wasn't close to James either. Yet he seemed to like me all along, always calling me sister and treating me warmly. So this lifetime, even though I didn't run off with Mike or anger my dad, I took the initiative to have my dad adopt James again. Just like before, James was sensible and even closer to me since I stayed at home. If he didn't see me for a day, he'd anxiously search everywhere, calling for his sister. You know, there's something I've been meaning to ask him. James, tell me, were you the one sending those texts? It just seemed too odd to receive a, "How are you?" text every 2 weeks. James looked a bit embarrassed and lowered his head. Why yeah, it was me. I was puzzled, but you see me every day, so why send texts? James mumbled for a while before finally saying, "Miss you." Me, but why did you kidnap those two? That's another issue I couldn't wrap my head around. I just thought it'd be fun. James's eyes flickered as he nervously fiddled with his clothes. Knowing him well, I could tell he was lying. I didn't call him out but instead got him to help me execute a plan. First, we released Mike and Linda. Then we let them believe I had indeed paid to save them. Several days later, while I was watching TV with my dad on the sofa, the doorbell rang. Opening the door, there stood Mike, recently released. Feigning surprise, I widened my eyes and asked, "What are you doing here?" At this moment, my dad came over, and the instant he laid eyes on Mike, his expression soured, asking me sternly, "Luna, who's this?" "Hello, sir, I'm Luna's classmate." Mike was carrying 2 gift boxes and tried to hand them to my dad. "Nice to meet you." "A small gesture from me, please accept." Sneaking a glance at my dad, I was sure he wasn't thrilled about accepting anything from him. He likely thought Mike was yet another kid chasing after his daughter. I discreetly nudged my dad. He took the gifts, albeit reluctantly, and gave Mike another look, saying, "Mike, I've never heard Luna mention you before." Mike's face stiffened, probably unable to believe I never talked about him at home yet too scared to talk back to my dad. In my last life, after Mike got me expelled from college, I dragged him home, which angered my dad so much he hit him with a rolling pin 3 times. After that, Mike had a phobia of facing my dad. "Come on in." I mused inwardly, while outwardly remaining calm, leading Mike to the living room. While he wasn't looking, I gestured to my dad, hinting he should head back to his room. Once the living room was empty, except for us, Mike finally revealed his intentions. "Luna, I was foolish before, not realizing your goodness. I was consumed with thoughts of Linda, but after that day, I saw her for the fraud she is. Only you truly love me. Mike, I hope you understand, even if I liked you once, that's all in the past." I regarded him coldly. "From the day you killed me, the Luna who loved you died. But you saved me, didn't you? Saving me means I still matter to you, Luna, stop denying it. Let's make it right in this life." Mike was moved to tears, reaching for my hand. I slapped his hand away hard. "Show some respect, or I'll call my dad." Mention of my dad made him sit up straight. He pleaded, "Luna, I get you won't forgive me now. But, can't you give me a chance to win you back?" I didn't say a word, just slightly lowered my head, not daring to let Mike see my expression. If he found out I was holding back laughter, my plan would fall apart. I hadn't agreed to anything with Mike. But I was dropping hints that I still had feelings for him. I gave him the illusion that he could win me back. So, he really started pursuing me. From bringing me breakfast every day, to driving me to and from school. From small holiday gifts to luxurious things like gold and jewelry. He would do anything I asked, even get the stars from the sky if I wanted them. My roommates envied me for having such a loving boyfriend. But they didn't know the truth. Mike wasn't my boyfriend, he was just my obedient lapdog. He went to great lengths to please me, yet I never acknowledged him as my significant other. Still, Mike followed me around every day, content with whatever he got. He thought that if he was sincere and did enough, I would fall in love with him again. Little did he know, the more he did, the sadder I became. Because I saw my pathetic past self in him. I used him as a distraction, a reminder to change my once miserable fate. Seeing him told me, "Luna, you better study hard and change your story." Thanks to him, I worked tirelessly during my 4 years at college, and finally, in my graduation year, I got into Cambridge University for my master's degree. My dad was thrilled, and he and James cooked up a feast to celebrate when I returned home. I was also happy, enough to drink a whole bottle of beer under his watchful eye and, in a buzz, agreed to Mike's proposal. My dad was so mad he grabbed a rolling pin and went after him. 6 months later, Mike proposed again. I said yes, but told him my dad didn't approve, so no family from my side would attend. Mike hesitated at first, but when I mentioned that my dad might show up with a rolling pin, he instantly agreed. I also told him my household registration book was with my dad, so we couldn't get a marriage license just yet. Though reluctant, when I asked Mike to sneak into my dad's place and take it, he shivered but was still very understanding, saying, "It doesn't matter if we have a license or not, as long as you love me." I even teared up a bit for effect. "Mike, you're so good to me." The wedding was set for a month later. We waited until then because I knew Linda wasn't doing well. Her rich husband found a new lover and was ready to dump her. All it took was for someone to send a few flirty messages pretending to be Mike, making her think he was thinking of her. She'd come running back. I entrusted James with the message trickery while focusing on securing Mike. As the wedding day approached, I asked Mike almost daily, "Mike, will you love me forever? Mike, you won't leave me, right? Mike, if Linda comes back, would you choose her over me?" Mike, desperate to reassure me, pulled out all the stops, but the more he tried, the worse my mental state seemed to get. By the last week before the wedding, I was in tears almost every day. Finally, Mike asked, "Luna, what can I do to make you stop worrying? Tell me, and if I can, I'll do it." I pretended to cry while feeling a thrill inside. The fish had finally taken the bait. Today is our wedding day. His family and our mutual friends are here. No one from my side showed up. Mike comforted me, saying his parents are good people who wouldn't make things difficult for me. I remembered how, in our past lives, his mom endlessly picked on me, his dad treated me like a servant, and Mike never once stood up for me. He'd only ever say, "My parents raised me, it wasn't easy. Just put up with it a little." He never thought, back then, that I was my own parents' treasure, too. Mike saw my uneasy expression, probably recalling our past life. He awkwardly scratched his nose and assured me, "Luna, trust me, in this life, I won't let you suffer again." Fake tears moistening my eyes, I squeezed his hand back, and we walked to the center of the hall together. The room filled with applause as the officiant guided us to gaze warmly into each other's eyes. "Miss Luna, do you take Mr. Mike to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold?" Blushing, I nodded, "I do." The officiant turned to Mike, "Mr. Mike, do you take Miss Luna to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and cherish?" Mike looked deeply into my eyes and said, "I do." But then, chaos erupted at the entrance. A heavily pregnant woman burst in, rushing straight to Mike. "Mike, you can't marry her." The microphone slipped from my grasp, and my eyes filled with shock and sadness. Inside, though, I was applauding her. "Linda, you finally showed up." Much longer, and I couldn't keep up the act. Leopards never change their spots. I always knew Mike would stray. As soon as that woman knelt and cried a bit, he'd only see her. Whatever vows he made to me, all those promises of undying love were already out the window. Mike, my husband, abuses me. He's terrible. I divorced him. Linda repeated her sob story, holding Mike's hand pitifully and begging for sympathy. But no one paid attention to her. Everyone watched me, waiting for my response and for my potential meltdown. I wasn't going to lose my temper. I never wanted Mike. So, when he looked at me, torn between us, I graciously released him. Mike, go ahead. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters to me. When Mike's mom got so mad she was about to hit him and wanted Linda out, I stepped in gently. Auntie, I'm not worthy of being with Mike. He deserves someone better. Mike's mom fainted right there. A guy with a clean record, a grad student at a top university. A woman who failed to snag a sugar daddy, divorced, and pregnant. She might be blind, but she can still see who's better. But Mike couldn't. He was blinded by Linda. Luckily, my efforts weren't in vain. Mike didn't want to marry me anymore, but he still felt guilty. He looked at me with a complicated expression and said, Luna, I've wronged you. But I'll try to make it up to you. Just tell me what you want. I cried into my hands, sniffling, the 2 cards at home and the 2 apartments downtown. Before I could finish, Mike interrupted, they're all yours. So generous. I tested further, and the company's shares. Mike, they're yours too. And all yours. We've been together long enough for me to know everything he owns. He can go, but he's leaving with nothing. Isn't he all about Linda? Willing to let go of everything to marry her? Once he's left with nothing, let's see if Linda sticks around. After leaving the wedding, I caught a cab to see James. The kid's got secrets now too, decided to move out on his own. I suspected he found a girlfriend, perfect time to check and give some advice. But he was already waiting at the door, hugging me tight the second I got out of the car. What the heck? Show some respect. I hit him lightly on the head. James wasn't too happy. Sis, you're only 2 years older. Yeah, I'm only 2 years older, but 3 grades ahead. When James was brought to my family, he started as a high school freshman. Though I've always seen him as a kid, my little brother is about to graduate college. He's grown a lot too, taller by a full head. 2 years older still makes me your sis. Be careful, or your girlfriend might get the wrong idea. I tried to assert some sisterly authority by patting his shoulder seriously. But James's expression changed awkwardly. Sis, don't say that. I don't have a girlfriend. Really? I got suspicious. Then why'd you want to move out? James fidgeted with his clothes. I just want my own space. Is that so bad? You little liar, huh? I grabbed his ear and pulled him inside. When I graduated from grad school, James confessed to me. I was surprised since I've always viewed him as a brother. But he said, it's okay, I've waited for you long enough, a few more years won't hurt. I remembered when he played the kidnapper at 16. Back then, I asked him why play the kidnapper. He said it was fun. Now I asked again, James, tell me, why did you play the kidnapper back then? James fidgeted again, for fun. I realized then. Maybe he, like me, had a secret he couldn't say. Because of that secret and the long time we shared, I finally said yes to give us a try. James was over the moon, spending 3 full days preparing for our first date. Only for Mike to ruin it. He somehow found where I was and blocked me at the cafe, desperately asking for money. Luna, I'm struggling. Can you give me back my assets? Give them back? I stared in disbelief. Mike, you chose to marry Linda, giving me all your assets as compensation. What, are you regretting it now? It's not that. Mike looked awkward, then changed his tone. At least give me $200K, no, $100K to get through this tough time. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh? What happened? Mike hesitated, but for the money, he spilled, Linda borrowed from loan sharks for a bag. Now they're at my door. I couldn't help but spew my coffee in laughter. So, you pay today. What if she borrows again tomorrow? She won't. Mike looked up, unsure if he was convincing me or himself. Linda promised she won't. Sure, she won't. I looked at him with pity, handing him a card. This card has 100K. Take it, but remember, Mike, after you take this, we owe each other nothing. Not now, not in this lifetime or the next. Mike was silent for a while before he accepted it. I heard that the day he got home, he found out Linda already fled. Turns out, Linda saw him leave and, fearing he'd leave her in debt, ran off with a loan shark boss. Mike lost it completely. He spent my money drinking daily, telling people, Luna and I were meant to be. They'd ask, then why aren't you together now? And Mike would cry, she doesn't want me anymore. They'd ask again, why doesn't she want you? But Mike had no answer, just repeated, I wronged her, I wronged her. Later, he was sent to a mental hospital, where he met Linda, who was also there. They say the loan shark boss was caught, but before that, insured Linda stayed by beating her up. James even took me to visit. Those two sat outside sunbathing, both out of their minds. Isn't it nice? I said. Nice, huh? They just fought yesterday, the volunteer girl said while sweeping. I held James's hand, he held mine back. The road ahead was clear.